Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast with KOMO Sports Director Niko and Najee Moye.
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
I just like saying it. Super Bowl champions.
Who would have thought that we'd be here? Well, we did.
Well, you were close. You said 13 wins. Can I just give Najee some flowers here? Because you have predicted like every big thing. Like, JSN's going to have a big game. K9's going to have a big game. And like every single time you put a key, you put a record, you nailed it, man.
I just want to point out by saying you're welcome for the parade. I've been talking about having a parade for the past couple of years, and we finally got one, whether it was Mariners or Seahawks. Can we just talk about how great it is to win the Super Bowl? I mean, for the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl after everything that, this whole really since we started doing the End Zone podcast. I mean, just kind of going through week by week, taking our viewers through, our listeners and viewers through just pregame, postgame, you with the rep reactions, being in the facility. I mean, we saw joy on the faces of maybe about close to 1 million people. The number is not official yet, but the parade was. Niko, you were there. Talk about the vibes. The vibes were elite.
The vibes were great, and it was what was different about this, obviously, than 12 years ago was everybody knew going into that 2013-14 season that the Seahawks were going to be in the mix for a Super Bowl. It's almost similar to how the Seahawks will approach the 2026 season. But what's this year's team, as we much chronicled on this show, was the Seahawks team that was predicted this offseason to win 7.5 games. And we told everybody to pump that over. Hopefully you made some money at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel on that. And it was, but to your point, even for us that thought this team was a playoff team the entire way, we thought better of it than the national so-called experts did. I don't think that anybody would say, yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl. And Mike McDonald even said as much. He's like, no, of course we have the utmost confidence. We knew we were better than everybody was giving us credit for, but who actually goes out there and says, yeah, we're a Super Bowl team? And this team was. So I think that's what contributes and is why people are saying this is the best one. Even if you have two children, you can't really pick between the best, right? Like that's what makes this one even more special because it was to an extent unexpected and a release of so much tension that was almost 11 years in the making, to avenge that loss to the Patriots, to overcome some of the frustrating losses in the meantime, the turnover that's happened in the meantime, and to turn this new chapter into almost immediately a Super Bowl is incredibly remarkable. And I think you saw that energy play out and be talked about in that parade down 4th Avenue.
It was almost a cathartic thing, you can tell that there were people, I was watching the broadcast and I was scrolling through video from all different angles. Our crews were everywhere, around the route. And just people were just like, it was the happiest, like, cathartic feeling for, like, I'm watching this in tears, I'm just given the way that, the last Patriots Super Bowl went and, just given how this one went. I mean, this game against the Patriots, and let's just dive into the game, was it was a beatdown. It was a beatdown in a different way than the Denver Super Bowl was, that first one. Obviously, the score is much different, but if you watch the game against the Patriots, Niko, Drake may look like he wants to go home. Every time we looked at Mike Vrabel on the sidelines, he's making this face.
Well,
he just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, to me, it looked a lot like that regular season finale against the Niners. And I was sitting in the same press box because I love that the Seahawks have taken over. And I've seen some staff make that Lumen Field South little graphics with that Levi Stadium, which was great. But it reminded me more of that regular season finale, whereas everything you said was spot on. And it wasn't like, the Patriots, if they were actually able to generate anything, would have been in the game. But again, once it got to 29-7, you just knew. And it was remarkable. And again, we talked about this. The remarkable thing about it is that pressure you mentioned on Drake May, the refusal to allow anybody to get 100 yards on the ground against the Seahawks team. Yet all of that pressure up front is generated by the front four. Now, granted, they blitzed Devin Witherspoon more than we've seen in quite a while, and it paid off in a lot of ways.
It paid off. It really did.
Spoon could have made a great case to be MVP as well. And I say that in the respect that Kenneth Walker was amazing. Derek Hall was amazing. Jason Myers had an argument too. But the point here is this. that Mike McDonald is such a defensive genius, and he has such the perfect personnel for what he's trying to achieve out there that nobody had a chance. Nobody could beat this Seahawks team. And can we talk about Puka Nacua? What an idiot. He is such a great player. He is such a great and talented player. I will give the respect where it's due. But what is he doing? Every time the guy opens his mouth or opens up his Twitter and X app, he says something that's stupid. I think at this point he's doing it on purpose for interaction. I love Ernest Jones defending it, and it's going to set up some cool stuff for next year. But tweets with Sam Darnold and laughing emoji, and as Ernest Jones said, "You're on the couch, man. Like, what are you doing?" And I love that all the Seahawks watch them do it and watch them, beat them. And it's just, if you're a Seahawks fan, which obviously you probably are if you're watching this or listening to this, it is truly remarkable what this team was able to achieve. And the greatest part about it is, like, they kept getting better. Like, if they played like another Super Bowl in 2 weeks, like, I think they'd be even better in that game too.
One thing that we saw, and I've even heard a couple players say, we just kind of want to play another game, honestly. Be on the field with their guys again, just all their friends. It's just like, the power of friendship. We always joke up on Twitter, the power of friendship is how some teams that aren't kind of as good as other teams are the teams that will make the most hay in the postseason. I've said that about many teams in the past, but the Seahawks are actually that good because they have the power of friendship and they have the mind to win. Mike McDonald has these guys playing, at least on defense, like lights out. They are the best tackling team I've seen in years, first of all. And I've seen that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't want to cut you off. I just add to it. The one thing that stands out to me is the closing speed. I mean, the Patriots a couple times in that game would dump it off to Henderson or Stevenson, and they're like, this might be a first down game. And like within a half second, Nick Eamon-Worry or somebody else is there to close on it, Devin Witherspoon, and make the tackle so it's a modest 3-yard gain or something like that. That's to your point. And that only happens if you're making great tackles, like you said.
And it all really happens if you're putting your players in the right position. I saw a couple of game breakdowns just by, I'm talking about Devin Witherspoon, just talking about some of the blitz packages that we rarely kind of saw, but I think the Seahawks were in the same blitz package with Spoon kind of going towards the edge there a couple of times, with Ernest Jones picking up blocks. Being picked up by running back is not ideal, and leaving Spoon just free to just tee off on Drake made Spoon is a very, very, very fast DB. It was a complete shellacking, Nico, and honestly, looking at and whether the Patriots deserve to be there or not is a separate story altogether. I've heard people say that they're probably the worst losing team in the Super Bowl, and I've seen some bad ones. You just kind of wish. Well, maybe you don't wish, but you just kind of think of what if Bo Nix was healthy? What if that game in Denver wasn't so snowy? Even Jacksonville would put up a better fight against the Seahawks than the Patriots did. The game was over.
Everything happened. And you know what? Like, I even saw some people on X being like, the Rams would have beat the Patriots by more. Like, you know what? Then get there. If you think exactly. The only team – I kicked my camera there for a second. The only team or a fan base of teams – because a team would never say this other than Puka Nacua. But the only fan base that has a legitimate, like, oh, man, like what could have been is the Broncos because of the injury to Bo Nix. Your starting quarterback going down the week before the conference championships. That's the only legitimate gripe. But anybody else had their opportunities. Jaguars could have beat the Bills. Bills could have beat the Broncos. Like everybody else, you could have had your crack at the Seahawks. And guess what? You didn't. And so, that's why this is a complete thing for the Seahawks, because they beat everybody. They beat the toughest teams on the road there, the Niners, the Rams, the best the AFC had to put forward. And I'll say this too. One of my favorite things about this was in the post-game locker room. You just see the weight of everybody off. I had a great conversation with Jackson Smith and Jigba, and he was just so emotional. And at the end, he's like, I said, I'm like, hey, I gave him a good look. And I'm like, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Super Bowl champion. And he loves it. And he ends the interview saying, put some respect on that name.
Put some respect on it.
Yeah. And that was special because, the whole team was upset with the whole Drewski fiasco with the NFL Honors Awards. And it was just, everything was there. I told Ernest Jones when I saw him in the locker room, man, I'm like, you called this shot. And when I interviewed him in January of 25, and I said, what's the future like for this team, for you here? He said, he pointed to the Super Bowl 48 banner in the VMAC, and he said, there's going to be another banner up here real soon, and I would love to be a part of it. Well, he signed the contract to stay, and he cashed it. And I said, you called your shot. And he gave me this smile. I wish I thought I'd have had time to put the picture in. Maybe I can send it to the crew. He gives me this look. He's like, I called a lot of shots this year.
He called a lot of shots. He was next level.
Then he had
He's
and then
the
Abe
next level
Lucas and what
argument.
it means to bring it back to his hometown. All those other teams and fan bases can talk all they want. But as I said to Rick Woolen after the game, you are a Super Bowl champion. Nobody can take that away from you. I don't care what idiotic take can be on social media. I don't care what idiot puts it out there. Probably the most times I've used the word idiot in this podcast and show, but you can never take away. And you can't even remotely and reasonably try to say otherwise. The Seahawks, they're Super Bowl champs. They won Super Bowl 60, and there's nothing that anybody else can do about it. And I love it. It's Seattle's title.
And the thing is, they're easily the best team in the league right now.
That's just it. I mean, who else is better, right?
And
even if you wanted to try to make the argument like, well, the Broncos would have put up a better fight. Even with Knicks, I don't know. In week 1 of 24, before the Seahawks were really rolling, like, oh, that was Bo Nix's first game. Well, look at the early 24 Seahawks, and they're getting run off the field by the Buffalo Bills and some other teams. They weren't the Super Bowl champ Seahawks either, and they beat the Broncos at Lumen Field. That's not even a good comparison, to be honest with you, but it just goes to show this. Like any other argument to the contrary is just so stupid to even bring up. The Super Bowl is the most definitive thing.
I surely believe the Broncos would have put up a better shot, but if you look at the teams that the Seahawks beat all year, I mean, and especially just in the playoffs, I mean, you play in the NFC, you play the 12-win, maybe the 14-win Rams, and then the 12-win Niners 3 times, and you beat them both twice out of 3. And the last time for both of those in the playoffs. Can you just believe that? I mean, and also, Nico, Ernest Jones is calling a shot. I may be calling a shot right now. There would be more banners to hang, this coming year, this next year.
Right.
I see no reason why the Seahawks team, as constructed. Also, by the way, I want to, before I even get into that Sam Darnold won a Super Bowl before Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen.
Crazy.
It's unfortunate to say for them. It's great for us. It's great for us. But this team, as constructed, there's a couple of free agents, so we'll get into it. We got a long offseason to celebrate this win, but hey, I heard K9 was trying to negotiate that contract with John Schneider on stage on Wednesday, Nico. And look, I'm sure he'll be back. There's not a lot of gaping holes on this team. There's no reason why they can't run it back. Am I wrong?
And what I would say is they're definitely a contender. There's no two ways about it, especially bringing back most of the core. It looks like they will. I mean, most of the core is in place. It's bringing it back, K9, Rashid Shaheed, and some other folks, Josh Jobe, Kobe Bryant. And Reek Woolen, to me, is the biggest question mark as to what they'll do. He's an undeniable talent. And we're going to dive more into this as the weeks before now in free agency, mock drafts, and all that. But to me, Reek is the only question. And it's not because of, he did this penalty, he did that. No. It's because he's 6'4", runs a 4.3 40, is really good in the second half of the season. And corners, as you know, Najee, get paid. And it's just a matter of how much other teams are going to really pay that guy to be on their team. And if the Seahawks can afford it with their future plans. That's the only reason that Reek is a little bit different in that respect. It's not a knock on him and what he did in Seattle. I'm telling you, the guy's going to get paid. That's what
we got guys like JSN and, Witherspoon, who were drafted in the same year, by the way.
Yeah, they're extension eligible, and I would be stunned if they didn't. And that's what I'm talking about. It's not just the free agency contracts of K9. Running backs notoriously don't make as much unless you're like,
Super Bowl MVP.
Exactly. Or McCaffrey, one of those guys. And not saying K9 isn't. I think he played his way into a lot of money. And you got, if you didn't bring back the Super Bowl MVP, that would be not just optics, but we saw what happened after Zach Charbonnet went down and K9 had the spotlight, and he delivered in every way.
He delivered in every way.
Is what we were preaching for all year.
We were preaching for all year. The Seahawks all year by design run a 2 running back system. Zach Charbonnet is obviously a fantastic talent. K9 is also a fantastic talent. But they do about 50-50. And it depends on where you're on the field. It depends on play calling. You can tell that they definitely mixed up. And for some fantasy football owners of K9, like me, I would prefer to see the postseason K9 throughout the year. But, he was coming off of a bunch of injuries. But he did, when he had to show up, he showed up and he showed up. He carried the team, at least the offense, at least for a little while. And maybe this is why you definitely give him basically, I don't want to say a blank check, but you gave him exactly we sign him because, you don't know what Zach Charbonnet is going to be like when he comes back,
Right. It was an ACL, right? So
it's an ACL. Yeah. It's not nothing, So
right. We're going to do the full primer before free agency opens March 11th, but it's important to talk about it, like you said, now, because there are some holes. There are not holes, but the idea here being let's
I don't
just
see any
say,
massive gaping holes on this
yeah,
team. There are people you want to bring back for sure, but as far as like deficiencies,
right.
I don't know.
You
I
just
don't really
upgrade
see
your
it.
roster. I mean, listen, with the number 32 pick, which is a beautiful spot to be picking in,
Yeah, great pick.
just because
Great
of
pick.
what happened and why you're picking there. You know, you
Yeah.
can find your new starting right tackle if you want to move on from Anthony Bradford. Not move on, but make him your depth piece instead of starter. And suddenly your
Sure.
offensive line is that much better. If,
Yeah.
let's say, you don't sign Reek because of the money of it, let's say the Cowboys just break the bank to bring him in. He's from the Dallas area originally.
It sounds like
At
something
number
to do.
32, you can find your third starting corner because they often said they like that they have three starting corners: Josh Jobe, Reek, and of course Spoon. And so there's the idea here. If you bring most of the guys back, you can use the draft to supplement everything else. And they've been hitting on all of these picks. I mean, Nicky Manwari, second round, Gray Zabel, first round. Without those guys, argument can be made that you probably lose a couple of more games. I don't know, like, because you finally figured out the O-line. You didn't break the bank to sign, you know, one of the free agent guards. You drafted Gray Zabel and you plugged in Jalen Sundell at center. You had your bookends covered with Abe Lucas and Charles Cross, and boom, the day was saved, right? So
Yeah.
really, really remarkable stuff.
And all those guys you just named, especially the guys they just drafted, I mean, maybe one still be on rookie deals and two. A lot of them are under the age of like 26. So I mean, we look at. I mean, I'm just throwing an arbitrary like name out there, but arbitrary number out there. But these guys are young. Sam Darnold is young. He's played not a lot of football. It may seem like he's been in the league forever because he kind of has been, but he's not. I mean, this is really his second full year of actual starting for an NFL team. You know, he started from Minnesota. Also, if you're Minnesota, who's punching air more? If
the guy who was fired, the GM who was fired, we're not keeping him.
Yeah. Or even DK Metcalf. I mean, I'm sorry to DK, but you know, I mean, you look at the team; they won 10 games the year before they won the Super Bowl, and DK Metcalf was a big part of that team.
Didn't he say the grass is greener when he went to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, the grass wasn't green at DK.
Sorry, DK, not really, man. Maybe for your money, but yeah, not anything else.
And we also talked about how he declined to trade to the Patriots, allegedly.
Oh my God, that's right.
I mean, he could have. You know, if you're DK, it's unfortunate. Now you have a new coach, maybe a new quarterback in Pittsburgh, and you know you're back with Mike McCarthy, and you know you're not winning a championship, unfortunately.
And that's because what if they come back? You never know.
You know what? I saw a great post on Twitter, and we put it on the 4:00 news, maybe right after the Super Bowl. Was like, you know, if the Seahawks are on this redemption tour for exercising demons, you know, I mean, what other option would it be if they just played the Steelers in the Super Bowl next year?
That'd be cool. And one on the Rams, like everything would ever in history of the Hawks football be avenged.
It would all just right itself. Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
In LA,
you got your call for next year? Or you just like.
I mean, look, the NFC is a strong conference.
Yeah.
Talked about in the NFC West. I mean, the Niners were much better than I thought they would be at the beginning of this year. The Rams, obviously very tough. You know, hey, I've seen tweets, and this could be correct if you really want to go down this type of rabbit hole. But if Zach Charbonnet doesn't pick up that 2-point conversion, in these jerseys in Lumen Field, things could be different. You know.
Sure.
And that's
you might not win the division and you start the playoffs on the road, but Seahawks were very good on the road.
Yeah.
And you know, they were 8-1 on the road. So I mean, it could be, but I just felt like this was a team of destiny that, you know what, Zach Charbonnet was in position to pick that up and to recover it nonchalantly because this was a team of destiny. Sometimes listen, the NFL is so darn competitive. The parity is insane. The difference between a 4-13 team and a Super Bowl team, as the Patriots proved, is one season sometimes. You need a few things
maybe
to go
even
your
less.
way. Yeah, and that's the idea. So, like, little things can make the biggest of difference, and the Seahawks just had it. They had something about them. I'm going to tell you, Najee, like, as you've often heard me say on this show, like, when I predict something, I go by feel. I mean, sure, I'm cognizant of the X's and O's and all that sort of thing. But the entire week of the Super Bowl, I didn't feel like I was certainly hedging, being like, well, it's the Super Bowl. It's going to be tough. You don't really know. But like, as I walked in the stadium on that Sunday, I was kind of like, there's no way they lose this game. And I don't care if it was the Patriots, the Broncos, the Rams, the Nine, it didn't matter who they play. Like, they were just ready. They were built for that moment. Testament to the culture. Like, often kind of resonate, right? Like it sounds like coach speak, but when Mike McDonald and these players say this team is as close as can be, they're stacking days, they're doing all this. But the fact that they keep that mindset and they go out and they execute it for like what ended up being 20 plus weeks was remarkable. And to me, there's no way they lose. I'm like, there's no way they lose. And sometimes when you have that kind of thing, when you have that approach and everything is kind of falling into place, that's when those little breaks, the discipline to pick up that football, that's when that stuff goes your way.
I want to just point out, but when and for a lot of the playoffs, anything can happen in the playoffs. People get hurt, but I mean, when it got down to the final four teams, we talked about on previous episodes of the podcast, the only team that we were kind of really concerned about facing the Seahawks is if they ever ended up playing the Eagles, because the Eagles just they make you play this really muddy, gross game that they end up playing, and they make everyone play this game. They didn't even get this far. And their offense is it's odd. The Eagles are an odd team. But after the Eagles were just kind of like cast aside, I was like, I'm confident in the Seahawks team to win the Super Bowl. And I told people that whoever would listen, I mean, just looking at it from an eye test and seeing them play every week and seeing them in practice and just seeing how they tackle. I can't tell you how important tackling in this league is.
Oh God, yeah.
And even we talked about how the NFL has been going to more of a passing league over the past 20 or so years. We're not seeing many 2,000-yard rushers. There's no Jamal Lewis's or Jerome Bettis's anymore. But the way this team won the Super Bowl, and shout out to Sam Darnold for doing what he did. The Seahawks kind of kicked it back to 1970, running the ball.
You know what? I love that all these people were saying it was a boring game.
And that's
how boring it is. That's what the Seahawks want.
And that's fine. Have it be a boring game. It wasn't boring for us.
No, we're champs. I wish
I could quote what Mike McDonald said in that hype reel. Poopy for them, great for us. I love that line.
Me too.
And just the whole defense just showed up so much. And Drake May, I mean, I saw clips of him looking distraught. Mike Vrabel is looking like he doesn't really know what's going on. I mean, he knows what's going on, but he knows he can't really stop what's going on.
Nothing he can do.
There's nothing he can do. When you have rookies on the Seahawks, and I can't remember his name, but the guy he's a defensive lineman guy, first ever sack in the
Riley
Super Bowl
Mills,
by pushing through a offensive lineman and just ripping Drake May down by the jersey while you're pushing back another 300-pound man is next level.
My guy, that was his first career sack in that Super Bowl spot. It was amazing. And that's also a testament, it brings up another point. Like the Seahawks are just great at identifying these guys. I mean, Riley Mills was a 5th-round pick out of Notre Dame, and nobody else wanted to touch him because he was coming off a big knee injury that kept him out of more than half the Seahawks season. And Aiden Dirty, the defensive coordinator, was like, man, we need that guy, and was like championing it. And they used the 5th-round pick on him. And even just that one sack in the Super Bowl, I think Riley, based on what we saw and what we've seen at practice, is like destined for much bigger things. But like,
yeah, for sure.
Just even that one sack on that stage and the way it was done, that was already worth a 5th-round pick.
That can make your day. It can make your life. It can make everything.
Oh gosh,
I'm bringing him up randomly just in the podcast a couple days later.
Yeah.
Another guy I want to shout out on the team. Actually, I'm on the team. He's a head coach. Mike, we did not care McDonald. I'm just looking at this guy right after the Super Bowl, looking awestruck, just happy he's taking it all in. This is his second year as a head coach in the NFL. Yeah. Overall, he's calling the defense. He's calling one of the best defensive games I've seen through the whole playoffs, just on a defensive standpoint. And it's rare when you see a head coach calling defense, but hey, it's Mike McDonald. He's a Madden, he's all Madden, all pro, all everything, all Super Bowl champion right now. And all ours, all Seahawks. I mean, he's about 38 years old. He's gonna. This is the beginning of something really beautiful here in Seattle, Niko. And I'll let you continue. But I mean, honestly, we did the story today in KOMO News. When the city has momentum, when the city shows up for a sports team, and the team is lobbying for another sports team to make a triumphant return, people are listening, wheels are turning. I'm just not going to say anything more than that, but just I imagine you and Chris Daniels will break it down on our sister podcast Inside the Arena. But it's your move, NBA. It's your move, Mariners also, you know.
Yeah, why wouldn't the NBA want to be a part of that energy we saw at that parade? I am wearing this Mariners shirt by design because I think they're going to give us a second parade in 2020.
Can you imagine how sick that would be?
It'd be incredible. This 2026, I made this prediction on Inside the Arena. I think will be the best year ever in Seattle sports. And you could already make that argument just by the Seahawks winning. But you have the World Cup coming, and that's guaranteed to happen, right? So it's like you already have these two events, but I think it's going to get even better with the Mariners. I think the Sounders and Storm are capable of bringing championships back. And let's not forget about the Washington Huskies. They're going to be a dark horse playoff candidate. So this is going to be a really special year. Buckle up. And I want to make the point. Yeah, I want to make the point that we're going to be doing it now that it's the off season. In years past, we kind of like maybe pump the brakes a little bit here on the End Zone, but I think that we're going to do it every week. We'll spend time breaking down the free agency. We'll talk about some of the key moves that led to this moment. We'll talk about mock drafts. We'll talk about not just the free agents from the Seahawks and what they have to do, but the guys that are available from other teams that might make sense for this team moving forward. So we got a lot to talk about, Najee. This is just the beginning. I think the Seahawks are, you don't want to use that word dynasty because so much has to go
I said it already. I'll say it again.
But listen, so much has to go right to make a Super Bowl. Even the Patriots in their heyday, were maybe every other year. They had like a 5-year gap and then they made it back, that sort of thing. But the Seahawks right now, this is the beginning of something beautiful. Like you said, they're going to be a Super Bowl contender year in and year out for a while to come. And it's going to be a true pleasure and honor of my career, your career, to bring that to all the people of Seattle and to have a first row seat to everything that's happening. So buckle up, everybody.
Yeah, guys. I mean, this is the beginning of a beautiful, I would say, friendship. We've been friends for a long time, Niko, but this is the beginning of the bones for the squad are good. The management, the ownership has been great from the beginning for this team. Now there's a coach in place. They've got their quarterback. They've got their defense. They got their stars. And national media was like, well, this team doesn't have stars. Hey, listen, don't come at me with this. Okay, no. Teams win Super Bowls. Stars don't,
And the Seahawks have the best culture I've seen, most camaraderie, and it's a young team that's locked up for a while to come. So, Najee, Super Bowl champs.
Oh, it's nice to say. Super Bowl 60, baby. How about 61?
I spent way too much on apparel and memorabilia from this, but I guess.
So what do you have yet? So what have you got? So I've got shirts.
It hasn't arrived yet because everything's like backed up. I've got the Nike Tech they wore on Media Day with like the Super Bowl logo and the Seahawks logo. Fanatics in the NFL shop had some really cool shirts I got from there, and I ended up as recently as like Tuesday, a lot of their stuff was on clearance. So I was picking up that half price, like the Super Bowl 60 jersey, which I'm going to frame just to remember that Super Bowl, stuff like that. So, we'll have that conversation with my wife when the bank statement comes in. But you know what? It's a Super Bowl. You never know when you're going to have another one. So why not?
Exactly. I saw a couple on the way to work for the walking around Denny around the day of the parade. I saw one of the great Super Bowl shirts, which I like the shirt a lot. The black with the silver is great. Yeah. But I also saw someone who highlighted where it says champions on the top, where it would normally be gray. It was lime green, and it looks so sick.
Nice.
I've not seen that anywhere else, but if there's or if anyone from Nike is listening to this podcast, me and Niko both like the jackets that the Seahawks are wearing right after they won the Super Bowl, the black ones with
I don't think those are for sale, but
if they could just hook we both wear larges, but we can wear other sizes too if anyone is listening.
Oh my goodness!
We can get 2 of those.
And we got to save our money for Super Bowl 61 in LA and all that cool gear, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. You win on the Niners home field, which is a special type of love, and then next year on the Rams home field, and let's just make I know the one after that's in Atlanta, but just move it to Arizona because I would.
There's a chance for a lot of really cool symbolism here, and it's going to be a long road. The road's already in place by winning Super Bowl 60. What a moment in Seattle sports and really just the entire history of this city. The Hawks have won it. Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl 60 champions. Najee, I don't think of a better way to close this thing out than that.
Well, we'll be here though.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, much more to come this offseason. There is no offseason once you win a Super Bowl. We're going to be here to narrate you through it all. So for Najee, I'm Niko. Super Bowl champs. We'll see you next week.
Bye.